All right, we are live. We are live. Live. So, as you can see, I spent some time yesterday blocking it out, finishing the line art, and it's now ready for shadow pass. And there was a guy on Discord saying that I should show the shadow, like the lighting pass, which I haven't done on any stream because it's always been done offline. So I thought, why not? Why not show that? So I spent some time yesterday finishing the line art and block art, and today I'm going to be doing the coloring or the shadowing. So I think that will be a cool little thing. Oh, thanks, Quentin. Um, like one thing bothers me a little bit though, which I think I need to go over now before I start the whole process, which I noticed I should have done it already offline. But just some slight different color, um, just to separate from the masks of it. I don't know. Anyway, so with no further ado, let's start. April, Trefal, Quentin, and Atsuki, good morning, good morning, good morning. So let's start the timer and let's get it rolling. So what I usually do when it comes to the shadows is that I just make a huge saturation correction layer, increase the saturation, and lower the darkness or lightness. Probably too much saturation. Anyway, so now that is like how it would look like in shadow, right? Hey, Jacob Mobley. So what I then do is just take a brush that scales. The more I press, the bigger the brush gets, and then I just go and paint in shadows, thinking about lighting direction and like composition. It's a fairly fairly painless process. Like you can get away with a lot. And then what I usually do to make the shadows more interesting is that I take a brush and then I paint certain shadows softer. And what's cool that if you sample, you're sampling only in the gradient of the mask, right? You don't sample the line art, you sample the gradient of the black and white on the mask. So you can just freely sample and paint across volumes. You don't need to try to maintain the shapes themselves, right? You can just freely paint the shadows in as you need them to be. So that's a really good little trick to get a blocking of everything first, so that you get the rhythm of the shadow groups, and then you can easily go over everything afterwards and then like make the shadows sharp at places and soft at places, so you can kind of hint distance. But like I said before, is that I don't have a lot of time, so what I have to do is just make a decision and let that decision lay. Like I'm not gonna have time now doing these to like really work on the shadows and quality of where I place the shadow groups. So I just have to run with it, and I'm hoping that it'll not be too bad. So I can't really redo it. But it's a good way this way to get shadows in quite fast, and you can control a lot. I mean, it's nothing new. I mean, I'm not reinventing the wheel or anything. It's just more of the same. Hey, Lurib, good morning. Hey, Traumatage. Jacob Mobley. Yeah, that is an easy mistake to do. By just doing it this way, you can get stuff down so fast, and you don't need to worry about all the lines you've been doing and what color are you painting on and so on. You just go, this is in shadow, this is in light, and the rest you can solve later. It's a really quick way to get a block out done of the shadow groups. And then you can you don't need to sit and think of sample colors and slow down your process that much. You can just think about where is a shadow, where is a light, where do I need the eye to look, so you can just without really any obstacles, thinking about maintaining some sort of clean layer structure. You're just doing everything on one layer. I mean, obviously, probably a lot of comic people do this, so I mean, it's probably not some invention of a workflow, but it's a good one. It's an easy one to maintain. So that's the fun part of doing this, is that you can easily just focus on the thing that's important without worrying about the technical aspect of which layer am I on, and what's the color, what's the shadow color. Now you just kind of blanket treatment. I mean, it's not perfect. I mean, everything is just treated the same way. Everything is just X percent darker with slight saturation. But for this purpose of just getting volumes into the concept, it's a perfect solution. I mean, ideally, you'd care more if you had more time, but I don't have that much time, so I just gotta brute force it.
All right.
Lurib, thanks F1X2, F1 by 2. Workflow invention. I mean, it's nothing. Like I said, it's just a hue and saturation correction layer, and I'm painting in the mask. That's the only thing, and I'm saying it's nothing new really. I'm quite sure that lots of comic artists do the same. I'm not really doing anything revolutionary here, but it's a useful process to have in the bag, or move to have in the bag if you need it. Get stuff done quickly, and you don't really have time to sit and render everything perfectly. You can just kind of do a shotgun approach. Just blast shadows in. It also frees you up when you're doing all the line work and coloring and so on. You're just gonna be blocking everything in afterwards anyway, so that you are liberated in a way where you know that, all right, I'll fix that in the next stage, right? Instead of just worrying about will this work with the shadows, or it's easier to figure out what you got to do doing it with an approach like this. And I think this one, even though it's pretty interesting as a concept wise, is probably going to be the most rushed one. And then I have to do the lineup. I can't forget the lineup. I have to go in. But one good thing though, when you have everything cut out, like you see down here, I have the whole character in a cut out in a block out, is that I can easily just go in and cut it out and place it next to the next one that I've already cut out. So it's just a matter of opening the file, finding the layer, and then copy merged, and I have everything on a layer, so I can just paste it in the new document. The reason why I did that is it's a concept you probably heard about, but I'm going to reiterate it. It's called future proofing. Is that you spend a little bit more time preparing for something that you might need to do down the road, right? Yeah, well, that's the thing which I also mentioned earlier, Luri, was now that I'm having to do the shadow groups, and when doing that, you have to also consider what would be the best solution. Like they have a lot of them have lots of hoods, right? So I want the top light, and by having that, making that decision of having a top light, if you know like basic portrait studio lighting setup, you should have one main light, right, the fill light, and then um, light to rim light, etc. But I'm just doing the one light pass, right, the main light, because I'm not going to have time to make it more elaborate, because I could spend that time adding a second layer, correction layer, and making it really really advanced and perfect. But for this reason, the reason I said that I don't have time to do it, I'm not going to spend that time and waste that time doing a half-assed attempt at interesting lighting setup, even though now I just have one main light. It's because I can. So it's a hit I'm willing to take, because if you look back at all the other concepts just have one light source, one direction of shadows, and you don't really think about it because it's not an illustration, right? It's a concept, and I don't want to make it too complex because of the simplicity of the light and the complexity of the drawing. You can easily be fighting the light if you're not doing it correctly, right? If you don't spend the correct amount of time fixing all the light, all the volumes. Well, I don't have that time, so it's a matter of picking my battles here and getting the best result in the shortest time. That would be, quite a shame saying, oh, it would be so good if I would have had the time to do it. So it's just a matter of like getting it to an acceptable level where I don't cringe. I think that's the most important at this stage. Just kind of block in the light, wish for the best. Hopefully in the end it won't look too bad. I think when you're doing a simple light like this, what's important is to capture the interaction between the volumes, like a cast shadow and so on. Oh, thanks, Hurri. Jacob Mobley. That's great. I'm glad that it's that you find use for my streams and my process. I tend to do quite what's it called? Um, Pragmatic approach. Like I like to break it down. I like to understand each step. So when I do each step, um, I know what is required of them rather than just emotionally approaching something. I mean, emotionally approaching something is great. I mean, that's ideally what everyone has to do. But you also have to need, you also have to have technique and understanding your technique. So what I found working best for me is to first rationalize the moves, the steps, and then practicing them so that now that when I do something, I know the process, I know the steps, I know the theory, I know what is required of me to do what I need to do. Because I practiced it so much, I can now just rely on emotions. And it's a big part of my class I used to have, that uh, like breaking everything down systematically makes you a make you able to go back to steps. So if you're stuck um, um, in the process somewhere, you can just go one step back, and ideally you'll see a solution due to the fact that you know what to look for because you're just going back in the process. Like, where did I do a mistake? It's like um, solving one of these thinking puzzles, like a Rubik's cube or these interlocking puzzles, right? You you try to make a move, you place this 3D puzzle together, and then you go, oh shit, this piece didn't work. So you have to backtrack and remove where you think it's broken. So it's the same idea, kind of like you always have overview because you understand the process rather than being lost in the process. And in my class, I went through all these steps and thoughts and theories and what you should keep an eye out for. It was a pretty decent class, I think. I ran it for four years at CG Master Academy. Then it started getting a bit too dated. I did it in 2012. I created the class, and it was running till last year, I think, for 4 years. So I thought, nah, man, I can't have 4-year-old art uh, and and theory. So I took it down. I want to make version 2. I talked to some other schools about it, and they're very interested. Um, so some cool news about that probably next year. I don't want to be talking about it because it might not happen or things might change. So I don't want to like jinx it or however you want to think about it. But I do enjoy teaching, and I used to do that at CGMA. What's great with CGMA and these online schools is that I can do it at night, so it won't affect my day job in that sense. I can still work for clients and have fun with my teammates at Opus, Mr. Quentin here. Or Orby, as he's also known here at the stream. But as you can see, like me just going over all the volumes with this hard brush, not even started blending the shadows. It's you get a really good result quite easy, and you can like play with shadows and and things just a lot more on autopilot. But what's always important doing shadows is having a really good shadow groups. Like by that I mean how you're reading the shadow versus the light in clear functional groups. Like with this smoke down here, for example, I could easily start adding these small little details about the smoke and making it like really realistic, but that doesn't help anything, right? If you look at it in the picture, it just becomes noise. So what's important to think about when doing shadows like this is what groups can you create compared to the light, so that when you look at it, you'll absorb all the important information correct in the correct way, rather than having to go in and like trying to figure out why is there so much shapes there, or patterns, and what am I supposed to take out of the exchange as a viewer from the picture, right? So it's just that's shadow groups, so that you have a clear rhythm in your painting or design, in the way you present it. So that's what I'm doing now, is like going in and adding more shadows to places, and having a like overlapping of the form and so on, so that it creates a path through the concept that is clean and readable, but adds complexity to the scene, right? Like this diagonal shape that I added to the cloth there, it's added on purpose because I want a rhythm there, a group of shadows that helps you as a viewer to read the form and understand it, um, so that you get what the relationship between everything is, without me having to add these micro shapes and all these things to try to make it complex and realistic. That's a problem a lot of people do, is they overcomplicate things, and just because they think it is realism, it has to have a bazillion points of information. And that's like Mike Avazido. I'm horrible with names. I think that's how you say his name. This is a great Brazilian painter. He always says like you have to forcefully group your values together. Um, there's a reason for it, and it's readability. A clean read goes a long way, instead of having a lot of different value shifts. Doesn't help the painting. Well, usually what's important is to have that relationship between light and shadow being strong. And it's a very, very easy mistake to do. And a lot of people do it, me included. I'm guilty of that mistake many times as well. But I usually, because I'm aware of it, I catch myself, right? I see it like, okay, let's go back in, delete a bunch of unnecessary shapes and values. Let's streamline it so that it reads cleaner. Because a lot of times you just get caught up in it and just adding and complexity has to be good, right? So let's add some more. And then you sit there and go, what the? When you zoom out, that's usually is the next problem you do. You zoom in. As you can see, I haven't zoomed in once to add a perfect little shape on the perfect little edge. It's arbitrary, because what's important first is to get the overall read, and then I can go in and add the finesse, right? But at the moment, it doesn't matter. Hey, Huvad. That's great, Zillion. Welcome back. Glad that you could make it. Um, Jacob Mobley. Now I've been ranting. I don't remember who it was. Oh, Micah Vizito. Yeah, he's good. Yeah, he's friends with, at least used to be friends with Dave Raposa, right? Okay, so almost 7 minutes left. I managed to brute force my way through the shadow groups here. Um, I'd say overall it reads quite well. We're starting to see the volumes, the relationships. If I switch that off and make it flat, it's getting there. What is it? When I was toggling, I made me look at it differently and seeing places which I haven't really paid that much attention to, which I should have. But right now, so 25 minutes in, I mean, it took me 25 minutes to do the shadows, right? It's quite efficient way, and I'm not even really fiddling with all the perfect little settings or shapes and all these things. It's just broad brush and force it in. Show the most important parts and then solve the rest later. I think overall, I think I'm more or less done with the shadows. Probably should go over and blend the shadows at places to show distance. And then I think I've touched absolutely everything here. Almost. Then one thing I want to do is go into the layer where the orange is and then delete it from the shadow group because I want the orange to stand. It's luminescent, so I don't want it to be affected by there. You see, there I wanted to add complexity unnecessarily, like there needs to be a shadow there, and it would have just confused the painting. So I caught myself falling into my own trap. All right, this have to do. Okay, so where is the red? There's the red. Okay, now it's all glowing. Hey Maxi, welcome back. Dramatage. Yeah, I mean, those guys, they do really fun stuff. They're good guys. Him and Daniel Warren, right? So now I can just go in and with a soft brush, because I used a hard brush earlier, go in with a soft brush and soften some shadows to show a longer curve of volume change, right? So when a shadow is hard, the edge is hard of the shadow, it means that the turn of the form is fast or the light is intense. So what I want to do is go in and soften some of the edges to show that it's further away from the object casting the light, or the form is turning slower. And you can get some pretty nice results. It just adds a second layer of understanding of the volumes if you're doing it correctly. You know, the relationship between the light and shadows and volumes of which part goes where. The readability is increased by doing that. And like on the main villain, I did that on the tentacles just to show in a stronger way the complexity of how they move in 3D space. One Amir, yeah, yeah, definitely. But this is just a normal brush. I'm just sampling on the correction layer, so I don't need to worry about smudging it. I can just manually go in. Hey Hugh, welcome. Really dig the stuff you posted, Hugh, about your challenge. Or I don't know if it was for the challenge, but there was some really cool concepts you posted. My memory is occasionally shit. I remember just looking through them. Whatever reason for you to post them was, I don't remember, but I think it was for the ArtStation challenge, right? Mm. That's cool, man. Like I said, Hugh, this is most likely my last attempt or time slot to have to work on the entries. I mean, I know there's like 4 days left, but I'm not going to have that time. So this is me scrambling. Just trying to get shit down and run away. Run away. Oh, shit. Time's up. All right. That's it. I'm calling it more or less finished. What's great with having everything grouped as well is you can do this. And then, oh yeah, you have a cast shadow. For free. Yo-ho-ho-ho-ho. Thank you very much, Andre. Hey, Bjork. How's it going? Yeah, Hugh, exactly. Well, I mean, I'm calling it finished now. I've done all the villains and heroes. They're all finished. So this is me calling it finished. And now what I need to do is just a lineup, and I'm done. All right. Thanks everyone for joining in. Have a fantastic day. Good night. And see you guys on Monday. Have a nice weekend. Fantastic. Good luck with the ArtStation competition. You got some couple of days left. I have to write some stuff down and do a lineup, and then I'm done. So thanks everyone for joining in. I hope you enjoyed the ArtStation journey that we had. We've had almost 20 episodes of me doing concepts and developing the ideas and kind of talking about it. And hopefully it's a series that you will enjoy. So I think on Monday we're going back to something. I have to think about what's the next project. Anyways, thanks everyone, and outro time. Ooh, I love that outro. I need a new one.